All right, here we go. MKB's here as the Sixers' Daryl Morey spoke today. I don't know that he said all that much other than they are open to everything. What does that mean? Michael Kaskey-Blomain, CBS Sports, covers the NBA and the Sixers. He was there on Sunday night for the season finale. A very disappointing loss, Michael, to the Atlanta Hawks. And I guess now we start to pick up the pieces. Obviously, the last 2 days, post-game and then yesterday and now today, everybody is targeting Ben Simmons. Is that the main focus of this 76ers all season to you?
It's definitely at the top of the list, Mike. I don't know if it is the main focus, but I think they obviously need to figure out, somewhat quickly if they, truly believe that he is a guy that they can continue to build around moving forward. And if they think, like you said, that they can kind of, pick the pieces up and put them back together. And clearly there's, a confidence issue there too. And they have to assess if they can get his confidence back up to the level that it was when he was, the top pick in 2016. And then go from there. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely right at the top of the list.
Would you say that what happened to Simmons was disappointing or expected? Because a lot of people say, I expected this. This is who he is. Is that fair, or was this more disappointing because he's not the player that we saw?
Yeah, I think it's more disappointing to me. I mean, maybe I was a little naive at times watching him in the previous years. And obviously there was previous playoff series where he struggled to score. But to me, the complete lack of aggression was, the main thing. Obviously, the free throws and the lack of improvement in that area is disappointing. But, in past times, I felt at least like he would still try to put his imprint on the game, whether it was getting out in transition and punishing defenses there or, hunting or exploiting mismatches in the post and taking shots. But when we see him go, 5 out of the 7 games in a playoff series without even attempting a field goal in the fourth quarter, that's, pretty egregious. And to me, it obviously shows that there's something mental going on there. So I was, somewhat surprised and also definitely disappointed by the performance.
Let me ask you about then, they have a plan for him and he might not play for Australia, it looks like, because he wants to. Why should we believe that we're going to see a different version of Ben Simmons next season? Why would we? What evidence is out there? I'm no Ben Simmons hater by any stretch. The problem I have is this might be all he is, and that's fine. But why should I believe that he might be more?
Yeah, I don't know if you should. To be honest, at this point, I definitely understand that anybody that's skeptical of, at this point, 4 years in, comments like those the Doc made yesterday when he was talking to us saying that, the Sixers have a plan and stuff, they really kind of just ring hollow when you're not seeing the improvement. And time again, obviously the Ben Simmons shooting jump shots in the summer videos have become like an annual joke at this point. And, I understand why anyone would be skeptical. And I think it's at the point now where it's, kind of a put up or shut up situation. Like, we need to see the results. We need to see them out on the court during the regular season and during the postseason for, I think a lot of people to, for him to win people back or for people to be sold on him. And until he shows that, the stuff, I don't think it's a question of whether he works on it or works on his game over the offseason. Everyone, that's around him or knows him or, as far as we've been able to see from the media, he's a hard worker. He does put in work on the game. He puts in work on his shot. He puts in work on his free throw, but it's just for whatever reason has yet to translate through the court during, meaningful basketball. And until it does, I think everyone has a right to remain skeptical.
I know a lot of people saying got to get rid of him, got to move him. Value, not worth moving because value's too low, or do you think there is, hey, it only takes one, and that somebody out there thinks that he's the right fit for their team?
Yeah, I think it could go either way, Mike. I definitely think that there could be a benefit to being a little bit patient. Obviously, right now, after that performance is as low as it's been since he, has been in the league, I think there would be some merit to potentially waiting, hoping that he does kind of build himself back up over the offseason, bringing him back out to start next year and then seeing, has he improved enough to help the Sixers and stay there, or has he at least improved enough to, boost his stock on the market. But it's also not so low to the, as some people, maybe on Twitter would have you think. There's definitely still interest in him around the league. There's definitely still teams that think he could be a really key piece with the right parts around him. So, as Daryl Morey said today in a very vague GM speak way, the Sixers are going to test the waters. They're going to see what's out there. see what type of interest there is, and then go from there. So it's a situation where I honestly wouldn't be surprised either way. Like if he got traded at some point this offseason, I wouldn't be shocked. But if he was still on the roster at the start of next season, I also wouldn't be shocked about that either.
I mean, is it in your mind at the point where you can't bring him back, that he just it's come too far? It's Groundhog's Day. They've done this before. We can't keep selling to people Simmons and Bede. You're going to go through an 82-game regular season. Even if he's scoring 22 points a game, people are going to say, I'll only believe it when I see it in the playoffs. So can you go through another 82-game season with this duo?
Yeah, I think you can, depending on other moves that are made. I think the fact that the Sixers need, a perimeter creator capable, I'm not like Trae Young in that vein, like a guy that you can give the ball to and have him just operate an offense in isolation or through a pick and roll. That becomes, amplified in the postseason. And for the things that Ben does well, that's not his game. Obviously, Joel is the go-to guy, but it's tough to be the go-to guy in the postseason as a center, as Daryl Morey kind of alluded to today. So to me, if the Sixers do want to continue that, with that duo moving forward, I think it's possible, but I think they then need to make the priority getting some, top-tier, high-level, bucket getters, basically shot creators around the perimeter, not specialists. As great as Steph Curry is, he's largely a shooter. Danny Green's a shooter. Korkmaz, all those guys are specialists. They need to have guys that can, basically create for themselves when things slow down, because Ben's not that guy, and it's tough for Joel.
Can he be that guy? Can he be that guy and just chooses not to?
I mean, we haven't seen any evidence of it, Mike, other than some footage from like summer league games and stuff. I think it's really tough to be that guy if you don't have the threat of, being able to pull up at least in the mid-range. I think Ben can get better than what we've seen, but I think the dream of him potentially being that, explosive perimeter creator is probably not going to come to fruition.
I mean, that to me, and you kind of mentioned it, like, we've seen the videos, the summer league. I mean, he came out, he made elbow jumper after elbow jumper. I mean, it was effortless for him to do it, and yet we've never seen that but a handful of times in 4 years. That's the mystifying part of the whole thing, is we've seen it in certain – why work on that shot if you're never intending on implementing that? So I don't know. Do you have any do you have any trust that Doc Rivers is the guy that can now pull this out of him?
Not really, to be honest, Mike. I don't think, to me, player development has never necessarily been a huge skill of Doc Rivers. If anything, Brett Brown was the more touted for his player development abilities. If anyone's going to get it out of him, I think it's a matter of Ben. He has to get it out of himself. And I think if there was ever going to be a wake up call for him, the way he played in this postseason and the way that the city has responded to his play, if that's kind of like a now or never thing. I think the hope is that, he puts in, like you said, in the lead, and he's not going to play in the Olympics this summer. He's going to instead, focus on skill development. Maybe he'll spend more time in Philly as opposed to LA like he's been in the past summers. But I think it's really a make or break offseason for him. And it's going to come down to him putting in the work and being determined to improve, basically.
Do you think he should play in the Olympics? And, I heard Windhorst say playing for Australia would be good for him because they have Patty Mills. He can't play point guard, so this might be a chance for him to go and just kind of work out at a different, not have to be the ball handler, not have that role. Go down there and just kind of, that you got to play. Or do you think that it's better that he's not playing?
Yeah, I think an argument could be made either way. Obviously, I think it would be good to get him to get some experience in a situation where he's playing off ball more, like you said, because it just seems, moving forward, regardless of where he's going to be, especially if he's in Philly, he's going to have to, spend more time off the ball. They're going to have to bring in other players that can, like we were just saying earlier, create from the perimeter. So I think it could go either way. I understand why he's not doing it. It would be, a pretty compressed offseason, and this being so important to him this offseason, I think him focusing on his skills would be, equally beneficial. So, I think it could go either way, but I understand why he's not doing it.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain, you wrote over at CBS Sports that it's not just Ben Simmons, by the way, that a lot of the same problems this team has had, and by the way, under very different circumstances. I mean, they've had a different roster almost every year dating back to when Joel and Ben were paired up in 2017, 2018 season. So if the same things keep happening and the roster keeps changing, what's the message there?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a top-down issue. I think some of these things, the turnover issues, we were just talking about, the lack of the perimeter creation is not a new thing. This has been an issue plaguing the Sixers for basically the entirety of this rebuild dating back to 2013. It's almost laughable how many good perimeter players were the Sixers passed over in drafts to take guys like Nerlens Noel or Okafor or obviously Fultz or whoever else they wanted to take. If you look, those drafts were littered with guys now that are playing at a high level throughout the league, and the Sixers just for whatever reason did not prioritize productive guard play. It's been an issue. They tried to address it with Fultz. That didn't pan out. Jimmy Butler was here for a little bit, and he's a guy that can create for himself, but then he parted ways. And since then, it hasn't been addressed, and it was a huge hole for them in this postseason. So to me, obviously, some of that stems from the front office. Some of the on-court issues like turnovers and a lack of focus, that has to stem from your top guys, the 2-3 guys that have been consistent here, over the past 3 years now is obviously Joel, Ben, and Tobias. I think, some of the on-court issues have to fall to them. And then, some of it is the front office.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain, I guess I'll leave you the way that many people have left the last couple days. Ben Simmons back next year or no?
Oh, man, put me on the spot. I'm going to say yes to start the season. I think he'll be back.
There he is at The Real Mike KB for more on this Sixers offseason in the NBA playoffs. And you can follow him at CBS Sports and get all of his NBA and Sixers coverage. All right, MKB, big offseason. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure, Mike.
All right, man. I'll see you.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And there he is. Michael Kaskey-Blomain covers the NBA, covers the Sixers for CBS Sports.